Hey guys, big news today, big everything. Rishi suspended, Thielen's going back to town. All kinds of great stuff. Today is purely Q&A, getting ready for this draft, making it awesome. Let's make this happen. So yeah, guys, this is going to be a fun and exciting one. First off, you're stuck with just me today. You don't get Bob as well, at least off the bat here. We'll see if he's able to show up here a little bit later. But yeah, this is pure question. Get ready for the Super Bowl of draft season. And as I mentioned up front here, the big news of the day is Rishi accepting the 6-game suspension. And welcome back, Marlon. It's a happy day. So I've said all offseason, and I stand by this. You want to avoid Chiefs. And it's not because that the Chiefs in of themselves are a problem. It's because the Chiefs have a horrendous playoff situation. In their world, they play on essentially every damn holiday, which means their schedule is not consistent. They went through the same thing last year, and you saw across their board points per game wildly declining. So while Rishi Rice's suspension today is a giant indicator of something to avoid, you want to avoid Chiefs overall. And Marlon, this is what we're all about. Shoot your questions. Ask away. We are in regular season mode, guys. So do the deep hitter or the quick hitter scenario, because as we fill up, we're going to get to go through all of them. We are going to be getting into that again this year. The quick hitter and deep dive formula. You put QH in the beginning, or you put DD for deep dive, and we go in. So, Marlon, let's dive into these questions. I'm so excited to have you back in the fold, man. Let's make this happen. On a side note here, Marlon, I just want to point this out here. I've always been trying to figure out the way that you did your text here at the end after your name. Because on the one hand, yeah, it's a cool smiley face, but it also could be like a shrimp. What is the point of that there? And it could be this really deep answer, but go for there. So ask your questions away and we'll hook you up. In the meantime, the other news of the day that happened is that Thielen goes back to Minnesota. I take this as a giant nothing. And I know that that's not the hysterical answer that you're getting across the media. But the reality is Thielen was on his way out last year. He's a Minnesota beloved icon that in a real way, this is like Keenan Allen going back to the Chargers. Don't expect a lot except for really good vibes before retirement. And that's basically what I'm seeing is happening here. It does not downgrade beyond the or suspension that's already occurred to Addison. Addison is going to be right back in the 2 once he's back. Again, Thielen might be a good pickup for the beginning of the year, like week 2 and week 3 in DFS, but that's about it. Thielen is not a guy I want to invest in long term, and that's how I would want to look at it. So when we look at between the Rice and Thielen news, Rice is still a guy I'm drafting in my league. I have a keeper option for my draft up here on Thursday night. I'm able to get him wildly undervalued. I'm getting him in the 11th round or something like that. So I'm still keeping Rice, but I'm also living with that full well knowledge that we're going to have. And Marlon, I love the keeper questions. Shoot them at me, bro. Let's make this happen, as well as everyone else that's watching. This is Q&A time. To go ahead. Brock Bowers at the 11th round is an absolute no-brainer. You keep Brock Bowers in the 11th round. Or Malik Neighbors in the 5th. To me, this is still Bowers at the 11th. A lot of reasons why. First off, you got 6 rounds of discrepancy there for what might be a borderline push. I'm not big on Malik Neighbors. And I know that this sentence is going to make me sound crazy and people are going to disagree with it. I don't think I ever was really big on Malik Neighbors. I was bigger on Thomas coming out of LSU. My fundamental problem with Neighbors is thus. He's too little. He's going to get broken. And Bowers is the centerpiece of his offense and is going to remain the centerpiece of his offense. Even with Amari Cooper going to Vegas, that takes nothing away from Bowers. If anything, it might open up the field a little bit for him. So you give me the choice of Bowers in 11 or Neighbors in 5. I'm taking Bowers in the 11th round all day long. Wumbo! All right, start 8 with 3 receivers, 1 flex. How many receivers do you want to get in a PPR and half PPR before getting in the mud at the end? I'm loading up on Bozo running backs at the end. And that's going to happen, Wumbo. When I look at my overall draft board, and as you guys know, for me doing drafts, we did obviously best balls, but we did drafts all summer long. When I did not get a receiver and a running back in the first and second rounds, my team was lacking in one or the other. Part of this is my wild obsession, and I believe justifiably so, with Collins. So if you're in the 8 hole, getting Collins and then Bucky, who I believe is going to be the number 1 running back, when you factor in the playoff adjustment, I think Bucky's going to be the number 1 running back. So many of my team starts happen that way. And then in the 8th spot, you really get a chance for a dynamic start here. You can get one of the elite quarterbacks in your 3rd round, and then Mike Evans in the 4th. Because I like the receivers in that zone of 4 to 6 a whole lot more than I do the running backs. There's a lot of late running backs you can get tremendous value with. Tracy being a prime example. Warren from Pittsburgh is another example that you can get late and get really good value. But if you do want to go with running back in the 3rd, I'm looking in the neighborhood of Hubbard or Kamara, which sometimes you get in the 4th knowing your league. So that would be how I would want to address looking at that situation, knowing that you got to start 4. Regardless of whether it's PPR or full PPR, I pretty much am coming out of the 4th round 9 times out of 10 with 2 receivers. And this is coming from a guy who's a running back core. And the only thing that really changes that up is that if I can get Hubbard in the 3rd round, or Hubbard in the 4th round, or rather. Quincy, welcome back. Got a trade offer offering you. Oh, wait. He wants Scary Terry. You get Tyreek Hill. That's a tough one, man. Quincy, is this a keeper potential at all or a dynasty? Because long run, Scary Terry is the better play than Tyreek, if for no other reason he's got 3 extra years on the tires. However, if Miami has any potential of not imploding, it's on Speedy Gonzalez's legs of Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek going in the 2nd, early 3rd versus Terry, who's going around the same standpoint. It is a fair trade. It depends upon where you want to look at it. I can tell you in my rankings, I have Scary Terry significantly higher than Tyreek Hill for a number of reasons, not the least of which is I do not think Miami is going to be that good. And I think that their offense is a powder keg. They have a lot of playoff games that when fantasy playoffs is on, they're going to be irrelevant. Them going to Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football in week 15, you're going to get knocked out of your playoffs right away if you're banking on a Dolphin. So as a result, I've really downgraded the Dolphins overall. And if you can divest yourself of Tyreek and get Terry, that's the side of that trade that I would want. Quincy, it sounds like you're getting offered the opposite. I'm doing the side that keeps Scary Terry. That's how I would go about that. Welcome, Magic. We'll get to your question here in a minute. By the way, guys, make sure you guys throw in the quick hitter and deep dives, and we'll dive into all of it for you here. I'm willing to trade. Buddy is willing to trade into 1-1. You're at 1-4. What would you offer to make this happen? So if you're at 1-4 trying to get into 1-1, I think I'd make this a little bit more convoluted than it needs to be, but here's how I would play this. I would do a first and second round swap and include your third. So I would want 1-1 and 2-12 for 1-4 and 2-9, and then you also include your third round pick. Or maybe start with your fourth and be willing to be talked into your third. That's how I would probably have to address that. That being said, Magic, I wouldn't make that trade at all. That's what it would take to get there to answer what would make it work. I wouldn't do it, Magic. Sitting there at the 4 hole, I mean, you're going to get an amazing player. I know that no one else agrees with me, but I would take Collins there. But it's hard to fight Jefferson, Gibbs. Those would be the 3 I would be debating. Personally, I would take Collins. When you look at what the playoff rankings are going to be, Houston has an amazing playoff schedule. And I know that that's a little bit more of a best ball mentality and that redraft you can trade like crazy, but you're never trading Jamar Chase anyway. So I would personally stick and maybe even looking dropping back to 1-6 and picking up some extra collateral down the road in a similar fashion than I would be wanting to look up. The favorite spot I have in this draft is 8, 9, and 10. Again, because that's where Collins of Bucky's wheelhouse is. So, Craig, standard league, looking at the first round, I'm drafting 4th and 2 round with second round and third round. Starts 4 receivers, 2 quarterback league. What would you recommend? Craig, if your league treats this like most super flexes and 2 quarterback leagues do, that is all about getting the quarterbacks off the board early, you have to take one of the quarterbacks early. However, if your league plays it where that's not the case, at the 4th pick overall, at the 4th pick overall, you're looking at everything I just talked about before. You're looking at Collins, you're looking at Gibbs, and you're looking at J-Jeff. If not, I am snagging up one of the prime 4 quarterbacks, keeping Burrow out of it. So it all depends upon how your league is constructed. So if your league goes heavy quarterbacks in the beginning, I want to take one of them up front, and then on your second and third round pick, I'm stashing receivers. Maybe you're lucky and Collins is still there and you get Ladd. I would not take that second quarterback until the 3rd round or 4th round, probably the 4th round. And the reason is that in superflex leagues that go traditionally crazy, when you come back to your 2nd round pick, you've already had at least 10 quarterbacks off the board. And there is no real difference between quarterback number 10 and quarterback number 24. So I would then stock up on 2 stud receivers, get your quarterback either in the 4th or 5th round, depending upon what the guys after you do, and go receiver nuts. That's how I would go at it. Try to get a Hubbard in either that 4th or 5th round pick. That's how I would look at there as a starting point for you there, Craig. I want Jamar, that's all. Magic, dude, I get it. I get the allure of Jamar Chase. It is hard to fight that. But there are some basic facts that have to be known about the fear of Lamar. And by the way, in a keeper league, I ended up trading and got the 1st pick overall before the draft was even established, the league was over. And I will be taking Jamar. So I want to do this full disclosure. But there is risk to Jamar. This isn't a no risk, give me Jamar Chase, he's going to win the Triple Crown again. First off, the Bengals defense, you can run up the A and B gaps with you. That picture you have of Gronk could come back in the league today and average 4 yards up the middle against Cincinnati's A and B gap. And as soon as a team doesn't want to play a shootout against the Bengals and wants to treat them the way they used to treat Brady in New England, where there was total time of possession, limit your amount of touches, that's going to impact the Bengals' overall scoring. That is a risk. However, there is no better team in the league in scoring quickly. He is the reason they are amazing at scoring quickly. And these guys will produce. Also needs to be noted, J. Jeff does average more yards per game. So it's not like you need to go up and spend the load to get them. J. Jeff is not like I went from getting a 10 to now I'm stuck with a 7. J. Jeff's still pretty much a 10. So that needs to be, for what you had to pay Magic to get to the top. I get you want them, but there's some concerns that I wouldn't sell the farm, and I'd be happy with getting where I'm at. Andre, welcome back, my man. So you have Kamara and Chubb as your running back 2 and 1. Would I trust them? I absolutely trust Chuba Hubbard. Kamara is a unique situation, though. So you look at New Orleans overall, and you wonder how they're going to do anything. They just announced that they're going to start the rattling gun. Scary. However, that dramatically helps Kamara. Checkdowns and easy catches are huge. Kamara has some of the biggest easy games in the first quarter, which, by the way, is if you guys have not played the first quarter game on Underdog, it's just strictly the first 4 weeks as a best ball format, almost like an eliminator. But Kamara's a guy I targeted very heavily in that because he's going to have a huge first 4 weeks. He's projected to have a pretty much a lull in the middle of the year and then come back like fire in week 14 through week 17. So I trust Kamara in the sense that he's going to get off to a hot start. And if you want to do a lot of moves, Andre, I can see this being ride the fire, ride the lightning, trade him laterally or even as an upgrade, and get someone who someone might be down on. An example might be like Monty and a +1, because Monty, I think, is going to give you a very steady ride, but people are afraid of him because of the new offensive coordinator in Detroit. So I would look at that. You probably get Monty and another plus player going into week 5. That's a way to treat Kamara, and then try to get him back right at your trade deadline at week 12. That's how I view Kamara. And I think it's a really good play to go with it. But off the bat, I love it. Kamara and Chuba, I think, are 2 great things. And just to put a fine tip on it, Carolina ain't doing anything unless it's on the legs of Chuba. That's just a fact of life. So your lineups are Kyler, Hubbard, Kamara. Yeah, dude, what I'm going to look at is if I'm going to change your team, I'm getting rid of Kyler Murray. I mean, Bob will 100% disagree with that. I am not on the Kyler Murray bus. I never will. Jacoby Myers on your bench is a stud. He's an absolute stud. And looking at your roster here, this might sound a little crazy, but if you see that the guy who has Hurts or the guy that has Lamar is hurting at a position, especially at a position's receiver, I would really try to push Kyler, Garrett Wilson, and try to make something happen. Like, if any of the guys who have one of the stud 4 receivers has Rishi, after that suspension announcement, I would go, hey, I'll give you Garrett Wilson. You plug him right in the rice. You get Kyler Murray as your starting quarterback. Give me that stud quarterback, and then you put Jacoby Myers in your flex. Your team would be radically better off, and I bet you could pull that trade off because people who have Rishi Rice are probably really crying in their teacups right now. So that's how I would approach it if I were you, Andre. All right, Quincy, back to you. 10-team league or 10-man league, 2 running back, 2 receiver, 3 flex. Love it. You got CMC Chase Brown, or CMC Chase Brown, A-Chain Henderson, and then your receivers are Sutton, Garrett Wilson, Scary Terry, Parasol, Abuke Diggs, and then you got a stud quarterback or Fields. So first of all, I really like the build of your team here. I would not move Scary Terry. I am starting Parasol as one of my first flexes. I am concerned about Chase Brown, but the situation is golden and there's no one pushing him. So I'm definitely starting CMC because you're playing CMC until the exact second he gets hurt. That's just who he is. In my opinion, the weakest spot of your team here is, well, you have 3 flexes. You're playing both Brown and A-Chain. So I'm not starting Abuke in week 1. And the reason for that is the rookie. I need to see what they're actually going to do out of him. I would start your 3 backs, Henderson, Sutton as your 2 receivers, your flexes being Wilson, Scary Terry, and then the debate between A-Chain and Parasol. I'm probably going A-Chain. They dominate in September. That's probably how I would go with that to give your starting lineup for week 1. And then obviously you're starting Daniels as your quarterback. Alrighty. Wumbo, who would you be fine with as your running back 2 or 3 if I loaded up a wide receiver in the early round or wide receiver in rounds 4, 5, and 6? You like Sutton, Ridley, Tet, Hunter, and Buke, etc. The difference for me is between Seth, Pollard, Pacheco is small. You got to take Tet off your list, dude. I do not know how to more strongly push this. People are saying that the move of getting old man Thielen is going to help Tet. This is a player who has no breakaway speed and essentially is a tight end, but not a fast kind of tight end, but just a tight end. That's what Tet McMillan is. I do not want any part of him because Carolina is not getting to the red zone. And even if they do, are you going to trust Bryce Young, who is shorter than everyone, cannot see the middle of the field, to throw wild fades at a guy who's going to be double covered, or hand the ball off to Chuba, who's a really good runner up the middle? So don't bring that Tet McMillan in here at all. Take him out of your life. Now, there's the other ones. Sutton, Ridley, A-okay, we're good with that. And Buka, I think that you're going to have a lot of diminishing returns with him, and because he's a rookie, it might be a slow start. Hunter, on the other hand, I'm willing to take a floater on. And I know they're both rookies. The difference between the two is this. Hunter's never leaving the field, and Buke, the day Godwin comes back, which is probably week 4, is going to start getting significant decreases. And if he cements and takes the rollover from weeks 1 to week 7, you don't need to worry about McMillan. If he has rookie frustrations, rookie problems, he might be number 4 by the time your playoffs come around. That's too much of a risk for when I can have Travis Hunter, who's not going to give me any of those concerns. Now, of your batch right here of other receivers, Swift, Pollard, and Pacheco, Pollard's the only one worth considering. I've said this a couple times here today, and for you guys watching on the rebroadcast, you're going to hear the repeat here. You do not want Kansas City players. When the playoffs hit, Kansas City has such an inconsistent schedule because they play in so many different holidays. They're not going to have their regular rest and setup. Last year when they went through this, all of their fantasy values diminished at every position across the board. You want to avoid Chiefs unless you're willing to off them. The problem with Pacheco is he's never going to go crazy enough to get you a good return. Play the safe bet who's going to give you good upside, which is Pollard, of those 3 running backs. Do I sell Kamara as soon as he has a big game? Andre, the moment to sell Kamara is going to be somewhere in that window of week 4, 5, and 6. I'm not worried about moving him the second he gives you a 30-plus play game because I think he's going to give you 2 of them in the first month. And I also want to make sure that one of the guys becomes desperate for a back and you can really exploit them. So, but I would say the window for moving Kamara is at the end of week 3, before the beginning of week 6. That's the window of time where I think Kamara is going to give you the greatest marginal return. And I really think you can do some league-winning trades with Kamara at a time like that. And my league start is 8. All right, so you're drafting 8. Awesome. And I want to know how you would go about drafting Rice now that he's suspended for those 6 games. Well, I just kind of broke down the fact that I don't believe Kansas City is a playoff value at all. So I don't want to touch Rice. I mean, my ideal start, and you guys can see where my money's been my mouth at this whole time, at the 8th spot is take Collins and then Bucky. That's how I would go about doing my first and second rounds. With Rice being suspended, I mean, he's almost a don't touch for me. For how much I downgrade him, he won't be on the board. This is nothing against him as a player. He's going to have an absolutely amazing week 7 till about Halloween or Thanksgiving. And the problem is that's not a very long stretch. week 7 is the second last week of October. So you're going to get about 4 games of him before their schedule goes completely haywire. Now, he might personally benefit in the sense that he's not tired from the first 6 games and the messed up schedule may not affect him as much, but it's going to affect Mahomes. It's going to affect his line. So I'm avoiding Rishi unless, of course, it's a dynasty league or a keeper league when you get him at crazy, stupid value. Like in my keeper league, I'm getting him at the 11th round. That's crazy, stupid value. Realistically, I'd want to look at him probably around 7 or 8 in a true redraft format. But again, he's not going to last that long. So that's how I would look at it, even in a league where you start 8. So I'm scared of drafting second in a 12-man this year. Alejandro, I get you. I hate drafting second in this league. The one thing I would make sure I do is in your 3rd round, you get either Lamar or Allen. And I would go into my draft with the expectation that you're going to do that. So the recommendation would be then to try to do a little bit more of a balanced start. And then this just comes down to your personal preference. Do you want Bijan and Ladd, or do you want J. Jeff and like Josh Jacobs? I would probably go with the first option. But that being said, that's why it's scary. But on that turn, you have to get Lamar or Allen, because the tangible difference between that and getting a mid-tier quarterback versus the gap of what you're going to get at a receiver at the start of the 3rd round and the end of the 4th round, the quarterback spread is so much larger. You got to get one of those studs quarterbacks. Andre, question. On these 3 quarterbacks, would you trade Kyler 1-for-1 for May or Kyler Williams, maybe even Jordan? Of that group, Jordan Love's the only one I would do it with. I'm very big on winning your league, guys, if you guys haven't figured that out yet. Caleb Williams and the rest of the Chicago Bears will have phoned it in by Thanksgiving, if not Halloween. If you look at their schedule, they might be 2-11. They have an incredibly hard road. He is an incredibly poor quarterback who loves getting sacked. They will go 3-and-out the most in the NFL, and I don't want anything to do with the Bears. And I don't think I've been kind enough to them. So Kyler is someone you want to get rid of. I would like the idea more of trying to exploit the guy, assuming the guy who has Rishi also has a stud quarterback. I would want to do a package deal with your Garrett Wilson, Kyler, and go get his stud quarterback, and then you play Myers. I think that's a better build for you. But of those 4 you sent there, my rankings would be Love, then May, then blank again, then Caleb Williams. So that's how I would look at that there. I just meant in general, a lot of these guys in these rounds compared to later running backs who are all really the same person. See, Wumble, I disagree with that. There's some late running backs I absolutely love. Tracy being among that group. I love Warren that you can get late. These guys are guys that people are sleeping on. And I get why you're sleeping on Tracy, but it's wrong logic to be. They're going to be starting Russell Wilson. All Russell Wilson does is check the ball down. Tracy's going to be on fire. And then at some point, they're going to bench Russell Wilson, who they're going to put in a rookie who's going to check the ball down. Tracy's a late guy that I absolutely love getting. And Warren has a much deeper grip on that number 1 running spot in Pittsburgh than anyone is giving him credit for. People think that this rookie is just stepping in day one. Warren's getting at least 18 touches every game. And for most running backs, you can't guarantee that. So I do acknowledge that most of that tier of running backs, once you get to the late 4th to beginning of the 7th, are blah. But I just gave you my 2 diamonds in the rough for that area. Pollard is also an area there. Wide receivers in 5 to 7 or 5 to 9 have great value. Yeah, I mean, you're seeing people like Jacoby Myers, Ridley sitting in there. Like I said, Myers is probably like the dude that I'm most obsessed with. that I've been taking early a lot. In fact, I actually had to stop taking him so early because Bob yelled at me because of exposure and not making good content for you guys anymore. But there's verily a draft that when I do off air that doesn't have Jacoby Myers in it, and he's certainly in that window. That being said, even when when I have Olave as my third, Olave is another great example of a guy you should want. Not having a stud of Collins, Lamb, Jeff, Chase, obviously, it always feels a little bit empty. So there are great values there, but I want to be shopping for my second through fourth receiver. And I want to get a stud in the first or second round, even if that stud's lad. But I can make a fair argument that says getting those guys in the fifth round, Ridley, might have the exact same upside as Najigba, who's going in the second. So there is some thought process there to look at. Reading that Rattler beat out Shook gave me the weirdest feeling of where I got excited the preseason news came from of defining a starter. Oh boy, it means nothing immediately after. Yeah, Rattling gun ain't holding that job. I mean, there's just no way around it. It's just the way that it is. I get that this is Moore's first year as a coach. You might want to go with the guy who's a little bit more trusted. But there's the conspiracy hat I need to put on here. The offensive coordinator of New Orleans is the dad of the quarterback who will probably go first or second in the draft. Could we just be tanking for my kid? Question mark. Or do we really believe the Rattling gun's got enough bullets to make this happen? Because I'd beg the first rather than the second. All right, Marlon, tell me where you're at. Give me your questions, man. I need to prepare for my draft here in 9-hole. What do you think of getting Josh Allen or Lamar? Dude, if you can get Josh Allen or Lamar in the third hole, I 100% recommend it. I do it all the time. Your team is exponentially stronger with one of the four studs. Absolutely stud. If Lamar or Allen stay there, I would do it. The four guys that get the top four have such a huge statistical advantage of being the four teams in the semifinals. It's not even funny. It is justification of why you should even argue them in the second. But realistically, the third round's the price tag. And if you can get one of those four stud quarterbacks, regardless of which one it is in the third round, you do it. My personal rankings are Lamar, Hurts, Allen, Jalen. But again, it doesn't really matter which one you get. Lamar, Allen are going to be fighting for the MVP the entire year, starting on Sunday Night Football in week 1. It's going to be phenomenal. As you guys know, we drink a lot of water on this show. If Lamar and Allen are gone already at 3-2, you have to take Hurts or JD. Yeah, you do. Because they're not coming back to you in the fourth. Your league has just said that. So if for some reason they're both gone by 3-2, yeah, I definitely would go with the other one of those quarterbacks. Alejandro, it's basically the statistical fact that if you have one of those four, your floor for 10 regular season wins is now that. Assuming on average equal drafting everywhere else. You have raised your floor up 2 games. So going from 7-7 to at 10 to 9 or 10 wins is the floor. For most leagues, that's one of your top 4 playoff spots. And again, this is my argument about why I wouldn't be upset if someone took them in the second round. Because those 4 guys give you such a tremendous advantage. You know, Wumbo's in here talking about how there really ain't that much difference in late round running backs. There really ain't that much difference in late round receivers either. The net difference between the third round receiver and the fifth round receiver isn't that much. The net difference between the third round quarterback, Lamar, and the 6th round quarterback, Baker, is night and day. So it's all about net tangible benefit. And that's why I'm going with one of those 4 stud quarterbacks. And again, if someone went second pick overall and took Lamar, I get it. I get it. So what do you think of Henry A-Chain Genty? So with Genty, It's a lot like that Kamara discussion I was having earlier, in the fact that he has a good runway. Now, Genti's runway is longer, but when you hit week 9, Genti has to be off of your roster. And the reason for this is his schedule implodes after week 9. He also has the rookie wall and all that other fun stuff. So what I thoroughly would recommend, if you go down the route of picking Genti, is you have to draft a completely balanced team. And you also have to make it so that I can move Genti for any position. So that way that gives you the greatest flexibility when you move them somewhere between week 7 and the beginning of week 9. That's how I would treat Genti. If you don't want to go down the trade route, it's a no doubt you got to draft Henry. Henry is going to be a stud. He hasn't lost his magic. That's how we would go there. Wumbo, I hate keeping 2 quarterbacks or 2 tight ends. I'm in the 14 hole of a 16-team league, and when you get to the bottom tier of quarterback and tight end, you have to grab the second guy because someone else is already looking at. Bro. If you're looking at McCarthy and Strange, all right, we just got to hope that there's something a little bit better for you here then. Strange isn't the worst. If you're talking about very late rounds, I can live with Strange. A guy that people are really, really low on, and I don't think they should be, is Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith is going after Strange consistently. I like that. And here's the reason why. The Steelers don't have a number 2 tight end. And before the trade, they were projected to have either the 3rd or 4th most targets going to a tight end. Now, people believe that, well, Jonnu's going to split those targets with Freiermuth. No. If you look at this from an honest, objectionable standpoint, Jonnu Smith is better than Freiermuth in every single category. He's better at catching the ball. He's faster. He's a better jumper. Any single thing that you would want, breakaway speed after the catch, Jonnu Smith has it. So he's not going to lose that giant target share that the Steelers have put aside for their tight ends. So I like him a lot more than the 3rd fiddle and Strange, who's the 3rd, maybe 4th target down in Jacksonville. If I can get the number 2 target on a team at the tight end position, it's a win all day, every day, and it's worth the risk. So, Wumbo, I would definitely look that way as far as your bottom tier tight ends to look at. Strange is decent, but I would look there. But as you guys all know, I'm big on Mbuke. Or correction, I am big on Njoku, and really there. In terms of bottom tier quarterbacks, Wumbo, you said before, what's the difference between the running backs? What's the difference between McCarthy, Rodgers, Geno? I mean, you're not getting that much of a tangible difference. Personally, I like McCarthy more than what I just said. But once you're down there, who cares? Just make sure you grab one before the league ends. But I wouldn't worry too much about it in that bottom tier quarterback thing, because there's not a giant tangible difference from 10 to 32. There's just not. Marlon, what should be my pick in the first round? I'm at 7th in a 10-man ring. My league mate chose Saquon as a keeper, so he goes in the first. I'm looking at CMC, Puka, or Collins. I'm going Collins. I'm going Collins all day. In a 10-man league, you're at the 7 hole. You're only talking about 6 picks until you come back again. You might be able to get 2 of the 3. Collins is the first one I'm locking up. It's all because of his playoff adjusted points. He has a phenomenal playoff stretch. He's a very good beginning of season. I think Collins has a chance of being receiver number 1. There's also really no receiver 2 who's ever going to challenge him. So Collins would be my pick there. And then for the turnaround here, I would go with Puka. Unless you want to get a more balanced, I'm looking at CMC, Bucky, or Henry. That's where I would look at for your second round thing. So same boat as Marlon. I had the 9th pick. I'm going running back, then receiver, quarterback in the 3rd. I might reach for Bucky. First off, I don't think that's a reach for Bucky. in the second round. Personally, I would recommend doing either Collins if he's there, or Puka, and then Bucky, and then stud quarterback. And the reason is in the fourth round, you're going to be able to get Mike Evans, who's going to be an absolute stud. And then you get one of these later running backs in the fifth round. You know, even if you get a Monty, a Tracy, a Warren, all of those are going to put you in a decent spot. And guys, as a general rule, if your number 2 running back is your weakest starting position or your second weakest behind tight end, you're going to have a very strong team. I firmly believe that you need to have a strong running back foundation. But in this era, in this draft particularly, there are some really good late sleepers that you can get in the running back spot who can adequately be your running back 2 that probably will become a really good value. The running back world is so wrong in the way in which it's ranked right now, particularly in that middle tier. Like, for instance, Breece Hall should not be sniffing the third round to save his life. He shouldn't be, but he's always there. What are you doing? So you look at stuff like that. There's plenty of late good ones. Monty, Bucky, or Bucky's not going to be late, but Monty, Warren, those types of guys that I can look at and go, you know what? You guys are going to get more share than people think. You certainly can do it there. That would be a direction I would go looking for you, Steve, there. So you got Daniels in the fourth round. Your first 3 rounds were running backs. I'm assuming then you had a very late pick to make that happen. Because Daniels, if he gets to the fourth, it's almost always very early in the fourth. But good for you, man. You get one of those studs as long as you're able to build out the receiving room correctly. I mean, I'm assuming that you got something like Henry, Bucky, and then hopefully like a Kamara or a Hubbard as your third running back. But yeah, I mean that's something can be there. I love the draft grades questions, Juan. All right, JT Jacobs, Chubb, Charbonnet, Scattaboo, Henderson, Addison, Cup, Adams, Kurt, Daniels. Then we got Samuel, Debo, Kittle, Murray, full PPR. So I gotta say, when the first question out of my head is who'd you take in the first round, it's not a sign that you had a great draft. So I'm assuming that you took JT in the first round, which again I think is a little bit of a reach for him. Nick Chubb could be a home run if he hits. He could be a complete bust. I am not big on Scattaboo. I think you're going to be playing Henderson a lot. So running backs, I'll give you all right, although you probably overpaid. And looking at your receiver room, I love the fact that you got Devontae Adams in it. Josh Downs is a big guy, took in a lot of best balls because it automatically puts him in his best games. I do think the news that Richardson is benched probably hurts down the most out of all their receivers. That being said, I like having the potential of him as your flex. Addison's obviously suspended to start the year, so you're probably starting off with Kupp and Adams, which is decent enough. Debo is a complete wild card to me. Washington could be anywhere from the 5th highest scoring offense to the highest scoring offense as a team. Getting a bite of that apple with their wild card, I'm A-okay with. Kittle, never going to get an argument with. Murray, I can't stand Murray. The guy doesn't work. I mean, he has not progressed since he has been a rookie. He has the exact same tendencies he does then as he does now. He doesn't throw the ball over the middle. He doesn't throw the ball with anticipation. Murray is a trap, plus he's getting slower and lets it get hit less and less every single day. So I do believe you're going to be anxiously trying to get rid of Murray as quickly as possible. I would probably treat it like this. I'm keeping Charbonnet year long. If Chubb gives you any type of love early in the year while Mixon's out, you package Chubb and Murray and you upgrade at quarterback. I think that's going to be what we're going to be talking about, Juan, as the season goes on. But I do like the possibility here. I just kind of wish, looking at this team in retrospect, instead of going Taylor, you would have went with a stud receiver there, because I do think that Jacobs and Henderson can be a fine start for you all day, every day. Do I drop Kirk for Braylon Allen or Cooper? I wouldn't. The thing with Cooper is it took him a while to adjust in Buffalo. He never did. You can argue injury there. But he just showed up with 2 weeks beforehand. It's a significantly lesser quarterback. So I'm not jumping on Amari Cooper, a team that's probably going to try to force them anyway. And if they do, they're going to force, if they pass, it's going to Brock first. I don't think Cooper jumps ahead of Myers in the depth chart in terms of targets. So Kirk is the number 2 out there until proven otherwise. Yes, they have 2 rookies that are promise, but promise doesn't fill the first down category in week 1. So I would not drop Kirk. In fact, I'm probably considering starting Kirk, and I don't want to touch the Jets at all. I mean, you're looking at a team that's trying to not have the ball. They want to play defense and just kill the clock. You're not going to have enough offensive plays for any Jet to really score a lot. It's a concern of mine. So I don't want Braylon Allen at all when it's all said and done. Marlon, I love that start. I mean, especially if you're in the second half of the first round. Receiver, back, quarterback makes sense for me. And then the best of the options in the fourth round. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You're at the 6th spot. So, I mean, there's like I said, I would do if I've done this before, I go Collins, Bucky, Lamar. That's how I start from the 6th spot. If Lamar's not there, I take Daniels or I take Hurts. But the point is that's how I go about in doing it. I think it's a very great start. I think it'll give you a tremendous advantage. And you start off a team with Collins, Bucky, and one of the 4 stud quarterbacks, you're going to have yourself a fun season. And you're going to have a lot of games where you're going into Saturday or Sunday Night Football when you're losing by 40 and you're going to come out with a W. It just will happen. It's the advantage of those 4 quarterbacks, and I cannot overstate it enough. I'm going to win my league. I'm going to have Puka or Nico, Henry or A-Chain, which is fine. I personally prefer Bucky, but those 2 are fine. Allen, but you're not going to get Bowers in the 4th round. Unless Bowers is our – oh, yeah, that's right. Bowers, you kept Bowers. Yeah, dude, you have a tremendous start there, Marlon. You're going to have yourself a really, really fun time. A really fun time. Don't sleep on Bucky, though. Don't sleep on Bucky. All right. Tom, welcome back. Still looking as ripped as ever. So I have Fields, Genty, Hampton, Henderson, London, Garrett Wilson, Hunter, Kelsey. Your bench is Debo, Mims. I love Crosby on there. Who do you trade? Who's your quarterback? Fields. This is a really good start, dude. So way I'm looking at this is I know I'm trading Genty week 9, but I want to sit on him until week 9, soak up all that value, move him when his perception's at its highest. As far as your bench, Crosby, I'm holding forever. I think that dude has lightning in the bottle potential. People who drafted him before the news of the trade are really, really have a tremendous advantage. I'm sitting on that. That being said, it gives you an opportunity to move some value ahead. Until Hampton and or Henderson shows their worth, you're not going to really be able to get the return on the investment you made on them. So I really can't move your running backs at this point. Nothing wrong with that. I think they're good sits. I think you're going to have a tremendous return on them. I think they're good picks, but you can't trade them now. London is, and Garrett Wilson, though, I'm looking around and saying they can be earlier trade targets, particularly Garrett Wilson. London's going to give you a couple weeks of awesomeness while Mooney's out. Wilson, on the other hand, pretty much is at peak value right now. He went in the second, third round, depending upon your league. He's going to have a really bad offense because while Justin Fields is a good fantasy quarterback, because he's going to be running for his life, they're basically going to play like their army. And that's not an exaggeration. These guys are going to lead the league in running attempts all year, try to keep their defense fresh and the other offense off the field. Hope the other team gets a holding penalty and has to punt. That is the Jets' philosophy. It's going to be horrible football to watch. But as a result, there's not going to be a lot of passing touchdowns and a lot of passing success, period. So Garrett Wilson would be the one I would want to move. And quite frankly, Dom, in terms of the return, I'm open to any position except for maybe tight end. Because maybe actually including tight end. Kelsey could give you a start, but Kelsey's going to be on a pitch clock. So I don't think I want a running back. Although if you can get a stud, you get a stud. I'm not telling you never get a stud. But your running back's got a lot of potential. I would move Wilson for either a receiver or a tight end now, more than I'm thinking this through. And I do find that doing cross-positional trades, especially this time of the year, gets you a better return. So I'm looking at moving for a tight end. For Garrett Wilson level quality, I don't think you're going to be able to get anything above Kittle, but Kittle's probably the neighborhood I'm starting to look at. And if you could do Garrett Wilson for Kittle, that's an area I would want to look at as far as suggested trades for that roster there, Dom. Marlon. I really want Mbuke, Golden, Crosby, Sutton, Hampton, Henderson. If you had to take one off of that list, Mbuke is the one I would take off of it. One of the things with anyone who's doing drafting and has that list of people they want, never be afraid to go around early to get your guys. Because there's a couple guys there that are going to be going in the same round. You got to spend the pick earlier to do it. And if you get the guys you want and you get the sequence of guys you want, that's all that matters. Relative ADP, what your friends think don't matter, especially your team, Marlon. You're going to be in first place anyway. Get the team you want. Because of everything I just said about the Jets and the fact they're only going to be running the ball, I would prefer Breece Hall over Garrett Wilson, but I'm not super stoked to have either. But the answer would be Hall. Again, not super stoked about either one of them. Your receiver, see, Juan, his receiver room, again, could have improved. That was my kind of take on it from before. Sorry, Juan, for bringing up sadness again. I'm not dropping anyone, Quincy, for Caleb or for Allen. It's a retirement contract. I'm not sure he's actually going to be one of the three receivers on the field every time. I would hope so. I would hope that he's able to beat out a QJ, but there's a lot invested in QJ. He was a first round pick. He does have the attributes. He's entering his third year. For Keenan Allen, I don't want to have him on my roster until he's proven he can do it. And I don't think he's really going to get the opportunity unless Lamb gets hurt, to be totally blunt. I think that Ladd has to go down for Allen to become valuable. And I love Ladd, so I'm not going to vote for that. All righty. I really do think Bucky over Henry. And there's two reasons why, Marlon. A big part of this is when I do my rankings, I emphasize the playoffs, 15, 16, and 17, equally to the regular season. Now, I think Bucky has a chance of being a top 5 overall rankings. But if you look at it, it's like it's like Fast and Furious. It doesn't matter when you win by an inch or a mile. Having Henry give you amazing starts early in the year is great, but I think Bucky's going to be right there with him. And when I look at the playoff scenarios, Bucky's is so much better, just so much better. And I in general, for the same reason, have downplayed all of Dolphins because their playoff system is rough. I don't know if they're going to completely phone it in. There's certainly a story you can write where they do, but they have a very, very rough playoff scenario the Dolphins do. And that's why I'm down on A-Chain. Sorry, guys. Got me doing a monologue for over an hour here. I need Bob here. I remembered you. Of course I remember you. We're back in fantasy season. I love all you team players, guys. We got you and you got us. We appreciate that. If you haven't already, click the like and subscribe. You are the backbone of all of us, baby. Bob will be back with us every other day. As you guys know, he's a teacher and it's the start of the school year, guys. He will be back with us next week. We did not lose Bob. We did not cut Bob. You guys still get me, but he will be back here. He might even pop in here for the last 10 minutes or so. I don't know. but Bob will be back here. We have not cut Bob from the team. I could not do this by myself every day for an hour and a half. Gonzi, welcome back, bro. 12-team PPR. Here's who you got. Fields, Jamar, Sutton, A-Chain, Bucky, Laporta, Olave, Myers, Diggs, Jaden Warren, Najee, Blues, Stroud. Who's my second flex out of Myers, Diggs, and Warren? Well, first off, I don't know if you watch this all off season, but you basically have all the boys that Bob and I agree upon loving. So I do love that. So obviously Myers has to be one of your starters. He just does. So Myers is who I would put into your starting lineup there. I'm starting A-Chain through September because the Dolphins go nuts in September. They just fall apart late. A-Chain's in that category of people I start considering the trade around 5 through 8. Off the bat here, do I want to play Warren? Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that'll be my answer. If my choice is just the three of Myers, Diggs, or Warren, I would go with Warren. Do I keep Stroud? You absolutely keep Stroud. Houston's offense is playing cupcakes basically the entire year. Stroud is actually a guy I have on as dark horse MVP money. I think Stroud could come out of nowhere. Now, granted, I have money on him. I have money on Mahomes. Because at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is going to wake up and say, screw it to the rest of the league and do something stupid. He's just not going to do it during the fantasy playoffs. So I am definitely keeping Stroud because you're going to cut him for nothing or get basically minimal value because you drafted him so late. So I would keep Stroud for sure. A-Chain fell a lie is kind of stupid for that. Well, I mean, if you're able to move him at peak value, you're going to maximize his return. I get the argument why you're down on A-Chain, though. I mean, I get what the rest of your league is, for sure. So, Marlon, Bucky or Chase Brown? I'm Bucky all day. The Bengals led the league in passing in terms of percentage of play calls last year. They said they want to do it more this year. They have changed offensive line coaches who is completely changing the way they're doing their blocking scheme. And Chase Brown can't handle a load as it is. So you had all those factors up. I'm taking Bucky. Bucky's going to catch more balls. The offense might not be quite as high as Cincinnati's, but it's going to be really close to it. And I love where Tampa's at. It's a soft schedule, a lot of run the ball out. And Chase Brown, as good as that offense is never going to have a 10-point lead. Their defense sucks too much in Cincinnati for them ever to have a 10-point lead. And they have Joe Burrow on their team, and that's a fact. So I got to take Bucky all day because he's going to have better game situations. He has a better playoff schedule, and you can nullify the Cincinnati's offense by keeping them off the field. So that's it. Drink some water, Marlon. I'm on it. You know you love it when I do. If we all type DJ and Moore, we'll summon them. Guys, DJ Moore is probably going to be the player with the most talents and the least relative stats. He's an incredibly talented receiver. I wish he was in an organization that knew how to make a quarterback and didn't believe that getting sacked was a criteria of a drive. DJ Moore will probably give you a game or two of 30 plus, but he will also give you many games of 14 or less because his quarterback will be laying down the entire game. He's not strong enough to throw in the winter, and because of that, I can't have DJ Moore trying to make a playoff run. He's probably going to be along the lines of until the weather gets bad and until Caleb Williams has been hit so many times he's broken, he'll give you a good start to the year. But he is not someone that I would ever recommend to try to build a team around, let alone consider picking up. So That's how I feel about DJ Moore. Incredibly talented guy. I'd want him on my team all day, every day. But the reality is that his situation guarantees failure. He might as well be a Jet. That's how bad the situation is for him. Dude, I love Sutton. Sutton is a great play. Denver's offense has a chance of really producing. If you tell me all year Sutton's one of your flex players, it's a pretty good roster. I can live with that. What do you think of McCaffrey if you can get him in 7th? All right. So, Marlon, I'm going to give the general answer and then your team-specific answer, knowing your keepers. My general answer on Christian McCaffrey is this. I do not believe you can win a fantasy draft in the first round, but you can lose one in the first round. I personally believe there are 2 players that you can essentially guarantee get injured. Saquon and McCaffrey. They have too much usage. McCaffrey's been injured too many times already. Same with Saquon. And if he goes down, you're never replacing his value. You're also never trading him because when he's on, he's 30 plus all the time. So it is a play that in a traditional redraft, I would back away from McCaffrey. Now, specifically looking at your team here, Marlon, with the keepers you already told me you have, you can take the risk. And I won't begrudge you for it because you're in a different situation. In a pure redraft, I'm not touching McCaffrey in the first round. I'm considering him in the second round, but I'm normally taking Bucky over him. But at the end of the day, for you, Marlon, I can understand it, but I cannot recommend it as a general redraft advice. Love you guys firing all the questions out here. You guys have been keeping me busy this whole session. Did 2 deals, any thought? Traded Waddle for Rice, and then you moved May, Parasol, and Kamara for Dak, Adunze, and A-Chain. Oh, Nino. I think I hate both of those. I mean, totally blunt with you, especially the timing of them. Rice with that 6-game suspension, Waddle is so much more valuable than Rice. Unless I'm reading these backwards, which I totally could be. If you got Waddle, May, Parasol, and Kamara, you won like crazy. And if Nino, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm just reading that wrong. If you got Waddle for Rice, home run. If you got Kamara, Parasol, and May, also home run. Especially because Kamara is going to get you such a greater extra return on investment a month from now. Yeah, I mean, those aren't fair trades. I guess that's my first takeaway from this, Nino. Those are basically the real life equivalent of the Philadelphia Eagles trading with Arizona. They destroyed them. So those are one-sided trades, and I just hope that you're on the right side of them. Starting off, I'd get Neighbors at 8 and then switch to CMC. Now I'm 100% on Collins. You should be 100% on Collins. Like I said, that's how I would approach this. Collins is going to be a massive target share. I think Collins can be outright receiver number 1, be right there in that conversation with J-Jeff and Chase. I know his playoff stretch is easier than both of theirs. So for all those reasons, I'm going Collins, and the fact you can get him on the back end of the round is an absolute home run. Keep him any chance you got, and if you can't, pay big for him because Collins is going to be a winner. If you're 9th, is there any chance they take CMC before you? And you can get Jefferson or something. So CMC is the wild card of all this, dude. Again, you can justify an argument for CMC at the 1 hole. So CMC going anywhere, it all comes down to risk tolerance. And if you're in one of the first 4 picks, you ain't getting them in the second round. So I get the argument for give me the second highest fantasy producer of all time. Never going to fight that. But I also believe he's going to get injured. And when you look at this fact that if you know someone's going to get hurt, you don't draft them. Especially someone like CMC who could easily go out week 2 and never come back. So that's why I would look at it. Jefferson is a way safer bet at the end of the day there. And you're right. Some people love CMC. And that's a reality. I get it. I just would never do it. So that's that. Is Bucky in my top? Absolutely. Bucky's my number 1 running back, guys. He 100% is my number 1 running back. I'm not saying that for shock value or anything else. He is. He's part of why I am comfortable only taking 1 running back through the first 3 rounds. If you guys watch the history of this show, I have always been a 3 running backs through 5 rounds guy. I've always been that. Bucky has given me the confidence because of how highly I have him rated that I don't need to go up there and spend Bijan money, who's also my top 5. I can go get Collins and get a massive advantage on the rest of the field in those 2 positions. So that's how I feel about Bucky. I think CMC is some people's, they downplay his age. They also downplay his injury history. He's essentially the only weapon in San Francisco. So San Francisco is given one of 2 choices. Either A, feed him like crazy because he's your best weapon and then have him break, or B, put him on a shot clock like Kansas City's doing with Kelsey. Well, one of the perks of CMC is his volume. I mean, he can give you big plays, but he's a volume player. He always has been. And knowing that Shanahan pretty much doesn't care if his players get hurt, he's always had that MO. You just look at it and go, he's not playing in the playoffs. He's just not. So I completely agree with you. They downplay his age. They downplay his injury risk all the time. And that's the major issue. Derrick Henry has so much muscle body armor on his body, it's not even funny. Christian McCaffrey looks like the dude you would see in a mall. Sure, a rip dude, but a dude you would see in the mall. You see King Henry, that's a freak specimen. And that is the fundamental difference between the 2 of them. And that's something that, again, you got to account for. It's just a fact of the life. Do the Bucs have a good O-line? They do. Yeah, I mean, Bob keeps making a big deal about Worth being hurt, but at the end of the day, it is certainly an above-average offensive line at minimum. I would classify it in the good category. I really like what Tampa's doing. Also, Tampa's in the playoffs no matter what. They're running away with that division. They're going to have a ton of leads late. And the thing with Bucky is he overtook that job as a rookie last year. And yeah, White's still around, but White has had a diminishing role every week since Bucky has become a greater and greater thing. So that's how I would look at this. Again, I love Bucky, guys. I get that I might be in a little bit higher on him than most, but Bucky is my dude. And I look at all of this as I look at every player in the draft through one of 2 lenses. Can I move them for an upgraded pick, or will they dominate in the playoffs? And if you look at every player through that context, they really then present themselves in a decent rating. Genty, you'll be able to flip for a massive return compared to what he'll give you in the playoffs. Kamara, a massive return after week 4. And this is just certain examples you can see the writing on the wall versus guys who have no upside no matter how you try to turn themselves into it. Garrett Wilson, talented player, not going to produce. Both of the Bears receivers, same situation. Might even be true about Marvin Harrison. He might be a talented player. I'm not sure if he is or not, but I know he's not going to produce like a 3rd-round receiver should. So I look at this and go, situation and playoff runs matter a ton. We're not doing these drafts just to have a fun time and a couple beers. We're doing it to have a fun time, a couple beers, and make everyone else lose. That's what we do here at Local Football Flavors, build the winners, and this type of mentality is how we get there. So, guys, we're starting to wrap up in questions. I see they slowed down here. I'll keep firing them out, answering them. But if we're coming to a conclusion, we're coming to a conclusion. So, what about Josh Jacobs? Josh Jacobs, to me, has been the consolation prize for not getting Bucky. Is that if I'm in a draft and Bucky gets pulled, historically on Underdog, he's been going around 20th. It's Bucky's ADP, somewhere around there. He's been there basically all summer. And at that point, this is also why, by the way, I hate drafting the first half of the first round. But I would rank after the ones that are in that tier for where they normally go. It would go Bucky, JT, Jacobs for me. JT has concerns. Josh Jacobs has concerns. But at the end of the day, they're probably both going to give you relatively the same performance, which will be a tier below Bucky, unfortunately. But certainly a solid enough second-round pick. Certainly have him ahead of Breece Hall for sure, no doubt about that. Sorry, I had a little brain fart there, guys. If you don't get a top 4 quarterback, who is the worst QB you draft to feel like you don't need a second QB in this year? That's a good question. So obviously the first 4 stand alone. Burrow would stand alone. Baker would stand alone. Fields. Maybe Mahomes, but he's kind of like the line. Stroud, I have no problem drafting Stroud and have him as a standalone, but you get him way later. He's been one of my sleeper quarterbacks I get a lot. And part of that's because I always have Collins, so I like doing the stack. But there's not a whole lot of those like if I have Goff or Love or anyone in that category, I still want to pair him with a decent second guy. And this is why I'm also so big on getting one of the big 4. Why use 2 picks on like 11 Dak that neither is going to outscore Allen, but I wasted an extra resource? That's part of my argument for taking the big 4. And it's also part of why it is, because there's not a whole lot of other ones I would just ride the whole year. Even Baker, he's been hurt, but I would probably in a redraft league only take Baker. I actually think at the end of the day, unless you're in a league where everyone tries stockpiling quarterbacks, if you're in a standard redraft league where only 6 teams take a second quarterback or so, I'd only take one. It'd probably be in my last round or second last round. Because the marginal return of 8 or 9 to 14 ain't that different. And I also get to be the guy who gets to be the one who jumps ahead to be first in line for defense. I always like doing that. We haven't talked a lot of defense on this show, but I think the Steelers and Texans stand alone as far as the top 2. Denver's not too far behind that group. But if I then take my quarterback in the very last round and I get Houston's defense out of this, that's a win. I'm okay with that. Because, again, at that point, you're streaming quarterbacks anyway. Everyone after Mahomes, you are streaming a quarterback anyways, just like you stream defense. So, Wombo, that's how I would answer that. If I get Brian Thomas as my second round, should I get him? Basically go receiver first 2 rounds. I love Brian Thomas as a player. I don't think he should be a first round pick. I understand why he is, because the volume is there like crazy. Most of his production happened without Lawrence. This is not a denigration on Brian Thomas. This is mostly a denigration upon Lawrence. Now, I don't have Lawrence in the Murray or Caleb Williams department as far as the doghouses go, but I also don't have him in the I can see a sterling future for him and then everything's going to be great like I do with someone like Stroud. So Lawrence is in that blah middle. He's a guy. I mean, that's cool, but I don't want to go with Brian Thomas because of Lawrence and because of Hunter. I think Hunter could be a real dude, like a real dude. And that would eat away into Thomas's production. So if you go if he slips in the second round, I'd probably let him keep slipping. That's how I would look at that there, Marlon, if I were you. 3 rookie questions. Let's shoot them. Is Genty going too high? Does Thielen move Ted higher? Is Travis Hunter worth his ADP? No, and yes. All right. So is Genty going too high? If you are a guy who's willing to move Genty and trade him, getting him in the middle of the first round is not too high. Because at that point, at the end of week 9, you will be able to do logical trades for comparable players such as CeeDee Lamb, such as Neighbors. Although that category would be logical trades because he'll be on fire at week 9. He just runs into a roadblock. But if you take Genty, you have to build a balanced team so you have an open itinerary for going everywhere. Does Thielen make Tet more desirable? Tet is not desirable at all. At all. Carolina's going to have a horrendous offense. Tet has no breakaway speed. He doesn't really even have that much of an ability to get open on pure jumps. He's a fade back corner on the goal line player at best. He is an overrated mid tight end is what he. Ted is going to be a bust. I don't know how else to say this. I'm trying to be nice about it. Ted McMillan is not going to do anything, let alone as a rookie. So you shouldn't draft him at all, period. Is Travis Hunter worth his ADP? Depends on where you get him at. He fluctuates. He's anywhere between 5th round and 7th round. I have no problem getting him. When we were doing our drafts pre-actual NFL draft, I was getting them in double-digit rounds, and I was gobbling them up every chance I could. The thing with Hunter that is the concern with him is, does he devote too much time to defense? If he devotes strictly to offense, he could be better than the Neighbors. In terms of the other thing you got to know about your league-specific settings, do they have IDP stats on? Because if he is getting credit for tackles, then yeah, every tackle typically is worth the same amount as a catch. So if he goes across the year, because he's a rookie, he'll get thrown at, he gets 40 tackles. Even if his yardage is still, say, 70 catches and 1,100 yards, you get him that extra 40 points, and that's 110 catches in terms of fantasy value. Hunter's 100% worth his ADP there. Love the rookie questions, guys. Love them. Oh, little South Park, Timmy. Make sure you like and subscribe, man. We love all our team players. Should I trade DJ Moore, Hunter, Godwin, and Chubb to get Kittle, Rice, Bateman, and Corum? You have Amon-Ra, Scary Terry, Keon, Douglas, Downs, Chase Brown, Kyron, Pacheco, Braylon, BRJ, Goddard, and Lamar. All right. So the prize of that trade is Kittle in terms of what you'd return. And you just heard me talk so much shit on the Bears and DJ Moore. I'm not doing that trade, though. And here's my fundamental reason why. Godwin, give it around week 6 or so, is probably going to be Godwin again, which means he's going to be pushing plus 15 points as a floor and pretty regularly giving you north of 21. Godwin is a guy that I want to keep. Given the rest of your receiving room, you can eat him being injured for a while. So I absolutely want to keep Godwin. Bateman and Corum aren't moving the needle for me, and Rice just got suspended. So I am not taking the side of that trade that has Rice. Give me the side that has Godwin. And at the end of week 1, if Chubb produces, I would then consider doing a 2-for-1 with DJ Moore and Chubb to go get an upgrade at receiver. That's how I would like to look at your team. But I do not want to move Godwin or Hunter, it feels like you're overpaying for Kittle in a really, really big way. Bo Nix or Purdy? Give me the runner. Give me Bo. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Purdy's weapons are lacking. And also, beginning of the year, Denver always has a critical advantage. So give me Bo. He's one of Bob's guys incredibly. To me, both of them are basically mid, but given Bob's love and his running ability, I would go with Nix. Dak gets hurt too much. Well, sure does. There's nothing around that. But hey, throwing the ball to a guy who takes half the plays off will only help him, right? Dak was my quarterback 3 in 2023. Definitely worth the upside. As a quarterback 3, yeah. But that's only in a 2-quarterback league. If you guys only have 1 quarterback or it's not super flex, never have a 3rd quarterback on your roster. It is wasted space. Yeah, in 10 or 12, I'm fine with just getting 1 quarterback. But in 14 teams leagues, and half of them grab 2 quarterbacks, you have to have it. Yeah, I mean, that's the issue with the bigger leagues. If you know that they're going to get gobbled up, but again, if half of them have 2 quarterbacks, you're looking at 22 quarterbacks essentially off the board. What is the difference between Sam Darnold and Geno Smith? It's basically the difference between a guy who's going to be on your waiver wire and a guy that you're going to pick up as the 17th quarterback. I'd rather have the extra roster spot that could be a long shot that might develop into something. Like, I'd rather have Amari Cooper than a 2nd quarterback. If you're only starting 1, I get that there's a bigger risk that the pool might dry up, but unless you know 30 quarterbacks are getting drafted, I would rather take the long spending part of the year. Should I trade DJ Moore, or do you think he'll be good this year? And I trade him, who should I get? Well, John, you absolutely should move DJ Moore, especially after week 3. And the reason for that is that the offense is a Caleb Williams problem. He's going to get hit too much. He's going to break, and he's not strong enough to play in weather. So I can see the argument for keeping DJ Moore for now, maybe week 1, maybe week 2, maybe week 3. But after that, you guys start looking at getting rid of him. DJ Moore has the potential of going off. He also has the potential of being on a team that literally gets shut out. So I look at this and say, I would rather move him. In terms of guys that you can get, DJ tends to go in the 3rd round or so. So, you know, a Worthy, even though I would rather avoid the Chiefs. Evans is probably the guy I would want to push for the hardest. Mike Evans in Tampa is probably the direction I would want to look at, knowing, again, how good Tampa's playoff schedule is. If you could pull DJ Moore for Mike Evans and you're getting Mike Evans, I would do that in a second. And that's not too far off of what a fair trade is. I don't know why Chicago scares me. Anytime I look at taking a Dunze or more, I talk myself into assuming there'll be another receiver 1. Yeah, dude, Chicago should scare you. Their quarterback is the most overrated quarterback in football. Period. He is. So if you want to have the ESPN, you won your draft, you won the offseason, go take Bears. They'll love you for it. If you want to win a championship, leave them on the shelf. What round is Gobble? It depends upon the forum. You normally get them around the 6th in Underdog. So that's what I'm going off of here. The 2 leagues I'm in are absolutely crazy nuts, one of which every team can keep out the 4 keepers. So with 40 people off the board, every round gets messed up. My other league is an auction league, which, by the way, auction leagues are amazing. You get to learn people in a very intimate setting that way. But yeah, Underdog, he's going about the 6th or so. I don't have a quite good feel for what he is on DraftKings. I haven't done it like. And right, his ADP from ESPN and Yahoo is probably around 130. That would make sense. There's, again, Underdog's also best ball, where you get more upside from his hitouts. I just offered a trade. Nix Sutton, and Dowdle for Hurts, Moore, and Abuke. So you would be getting Nick, Sutton, and Dowdle. Yeah, I'm not getting rid of Hurts. There's no scenario where I'm getting rid of one of the big four. Yeah, John, that they should be a complete no trade discussion over. I'm not discussing trading any of the big four quarterbacks. Are you okay with Harvey as your running back 2 in full PPR? Your other backs are Brown, Charbs, Crosby, and Shipley. I'm not starting Harvey week 1. I'm starting Crosby week 1. Harvey is the backup right now, and Crosby's the starter. So that's how I would want to look at that as a starting point for that answer. Yeah, exactly. I'd rather have the Hurts and Mbuke side. Well, guys, we normally wrap up around this time anyway. I haven't seen any new questions come in. Make sure you guys click like and subscribe. And it's been fun being back with you. We're going to be back in this format like always, sticking with Mondays and Wednesdays for the foreseeable future. It's great talking with you. Oh, we got another one coming in. Wumbo saying good luck. Good luck to all your drafts as well. We'll see you on the other side. It'll be game week, baby. Let's do this thing. Oh, one last question shot in here. Due to the first round this year, any advice? What pick number are you, Aiden? I need to know what pick number you are if I'm going to give you advice on who you're taking. If you're one of the, so if you're talking about your first pick overall. All right. So first pick overall, I'm going Chase. I'm going one of the stud quarterbacks. And then I'm probably looking at, God, you hit a home run if Bucky slips to you, or if you're in a 10-man league, he probably will. But if not, you're probably looking at someone like Josh Jacobs or Chuba, or Mike Evans. That's probably the players I'm looking at for the third round there when you're talking about it. So that's how I would look at that. So you guys have a great one, and we will talk to you then.